The Wealth Blueprint, Managing Money. Like the elite, here's a truth that could transform everything you thought you knew about building wealth. Among the world's wealthiest individuals, 3/4 built empires through entrepreneurship. 15% climbed their way through strategic investments. 7% inherited their fortunes. 3% earned theirs through extraordinary talent in sports, entertainment, or the arts. And traditional salaried employees, 0%. Let that sink in for a moment. What connects these wealth-building paths? The answer is deceptively simple: ownership. Business owners possess companies, investment professionals control assets, trust fund beneficiaries hold generational wealth, elite performers own irreplaceable abilities. The pattern becomes crystal clear. Without ownership, you become the commodity. This is the fundamental principle that separates financial freedom from perpetual dependence. So how do you begin claiming ownership like the top 1%? Through a systematic approach I call the 25 to 15 to 50-10 formula. This framework isn't theoretical nonsense. It's a battle-tested strategy that works regardless of your current income level. Because contrary to popular belief, wealth creation isn't about your earnings. It's about how you orchestrate those earnings. I'm not presenting theory from an ivory tower. These principles guided my journey from zero capital and no credentials to multi-millionaire status over several decades. Let me show you exactly how. The first quarter, your growth engine. 25% of every dollar you earn should fuel expansion. This represents the portion that generates returns while you sleep. Let me clarify something crucial. I'm not discussing vague self-improvement philosophies or meditation practices. I'm talking about strategically deploying capital into appreciating assets, things that compound on value over time and generate passive income streams. Here's what happens to most people. The paycheck arrives, bills get paid, and whatever remains evaporates on forgettable purchases. This cycle traps 99% of the population in a state of permanent financial emptiness. The system is designed this way. Society needs people wealthy for 7 days, then desperate by month's end, creating an endless loop of dependency. It's a modern version of historical bondage. Consider the parallel. Enslaved people once labored without compensation, but received sustenance, shelter, and water. Today, people labor continuously for wages that predominantly cover those same 3 necessities: food, housing, and water. The only difference? The illusion of autonomy. Once you recognize this pattern, you can counteract it by immediately redirecting that initial 25% toward assets. These are vehicles that appreciate and generate cash flow, working for you in the background while you're occupied elsewhere. Eventually, your asset portfolio could exceed your primary employment income. You might protest that your income is insufficient for investment, but you must find a way, because timing is everything. Let me illustrate something remarkable. Meet our first character, someone who began investing $200 monthly at age 20. Now meet our second character, who waited until 30 but compensated with $300 monthly contributions. Fast forward to age 60 when both stopped investing. The first person contributed $200 monthly for 40 years, totaling $96,000. The second invested $300 monthly for 30 years, totaling $108,000. Logic suggests the second person would accumulate more wealth, having saved more each month. But investment mechanics tell a different story. Assuming a 10% annual return, the S&P 500's century-long average, the mathematics becomes stunning. The second person's portfolio would reach $678,000. Impressive, but the first person's investment would explode to over $1.2 million. Think about that. $12,000 less invested, but nearly $600,000 more accumulated, purely because of an earlier start. That's compound growth in action. This is why immediate action matters, even with modest amounts. Delay costs exponentially more than you realize. Selecting your growth vehicles. Numerous wealth-building avenues exist, each carrying different risk-reward profiles. Imagine them on a spectrum from stable and steady to high-stakes, high returns. At the conservative end sit index funds. This is where most people should establish their foundation. You're not attempting to identify winners. You're purchasing a slice of the entire market, like the S&P 500 previously mentioned. No chart analysis required, no market timing necessary, just steady background accumulation. Real estate follows, either rental properties if you have capital or REITs if you don't. REITs allow real estate exposure without property ownership, essentially buying fractional building shares alongside other investors. At the middle tier, live skills development. Learning monetizable abilities delivers the fastest return on investment you'll ever experience. Copywriting, editing, sales, programming, anything generating direct income. Unlike stocks or property, nobody can confiscate your capabilities. However, skill acquisition demands more time investment, elevating the risk profile. Moving higher, we encounter online ventures, dropshipping, digital product sales. These can pay tremendously but demand significant effort and multiple failures before finding your formula. Then come individual stocks. The temptation to identify the next Tesla is powerful, but without thorough research and genuine expertise, you're essentially gambling. Keep this small and treat it as entertainment, not strategy. At the spectrum's peak lie alternative investments, cryptocurrency, precious metals, collectibles, NFTs. Can you profit? Absolutely. Can you lose everything overnight? Also absolutely. I've experimented with these but never risked more than I'm prepared to lose. These are moonshots, entertaining to attempt but not foundation builders. Start with foundation elements, index funds, and high-income skills. As confidence grows, explore the rest. Tax-advantaged infrastructure. Knowing what to invest in is only half the equation. Investing through improper accounts can cost thousands in unnecessary taxation without your awareness. Smart wealth building requires legally minimizing tax exposure. Remember, I'm sharing personal experience, not providing professional financial advice. UK residents should explore stocks and shares ISAs, £20,000 annual contribution limit with tax-free growth. Platforms like Trading 212 facilitate this. Workplace pensions offer another avenue, typically with 5% employee contribution and 3% employer matching, essentially free capital that grows tax-deferred until withdrawal. U.S. residents have the Roth IRA, arguably the best available account. You invest post-tax dollars, but every penny of growth is completely tax-free, and retirement withdrawals carry zero tax. The annual limit is $7,000 if you're under 50. Even billionaires utilize this vehicle. Peter Thiel, PayPal's co-founder, reportedly transformed his Roth IRA into over $5 billion through early-stage company investments in PayPal and Facebook. The 401k functions as America's pension equivalent. Pre-tax paycheck deductions grow tax-deferred during investment, and employer matching should never be declined. For those outside these jurisdictions, numerous countries offer tax-advantaged accounts worth researching. Here's the critical mistake. Many people open these accounts, contribute monthly, but never actually invest the deposits. Don't let your money sit idle. Automating your investments. With assets selected and accounts established, put your capital to work. Set up automated monthly transfers from your bank to your investment platform, ideally on payday. This removes temptation. You never see the money. Once funds arrive, skip the chart gazing and market timing attempts. Look for index funds. A popular approach is the 3-fund portfolio, a U.S. stock index fund covering major American companies, an international stock index fund spanning companies globally, and a bond fund providing stability and volatility cushioning. Once automation is running, your job simplifies. Stop tinkering and focus on earning more. Wealth builders aren't those selecting fancy stocks, they're those consistently increasing contributions over time. Your focus should shift to income expansion so you can boost investment levels. This is where skill building truly accelerates. The second tier, your stability shield. 15% of your income should secure stability. This is the 15% keeping you in the game. Most people don't realize that not everything should flow into growth investments or spending. Some must be reserved to protect your progress. I learned this lesson painfully. Growing up without financial education, I needed a car at 18 for work. With no savings, I did what most do, took a loan and bought a Volkswagen Golf. I even financed an upgraded stereo with extra bank cash. For 3 months, life felt perfect. Then the engine catastrophically failed. No backup, no safety net, no solutions. And if the car stayed broken, my job was gone. So I borrowed more, piling debt, pressure, and stress. That car didn't just break down, it shattered my finances and set me back an entire year. Had I maintained 15% for stability, everything would have been different. Most people don't have a money problem, they have a stability problem. One unexpected expense and Eve said, Everything collapses. Even if you're investing, you'd be forced to liquidate investments at unfavorable times, potentially locking in losses. That's why you need built-in margin for error. Calculating your stability fund. First, itemize your core expenses: groceries, housing, utilities, transportation, essential services like internet for work, not entertainment. Combined, these create your monthly baseline. Let's say $1,500. Now multiply by 5 months. This equals your ideal stability target, in this example, $7,500. Each month, 15% of your income should build this figure. This might seem extreme. It is cautious. But I know from experience that when life strikes, it arrives all at once without warning. Couple months savings won't make you bulletproof. Storing it correctly. Where you park this money is equally important as having it. I follow 3 non-negotiable rules. First, easy accessibility. This money should be available within 24 hours maximum. Don't lock it in accounts penalizing early withdrawal or requiring multi-year commitments for slightly better interest. I've witnessed people lose employment but still can't access their stability fund. That defeats the entire purpose. Second, zero risk. This isn't money you invest, gamble with, or chase returns on. Under no circumstances put your emergency fund into stock markets, not even safe ones. When emergencies strike, markets might be down. Same applies to cryptocurrency, long-term bonds, or anything designed for multi-year growth. Third, it must always earn. Though not your growth pod, it shouldn't sit in a dead-end account doing nothing. You want somewhere earning modest returns without risk, otherwise inflation erodes its purchasing power over time. High-yield savings accounts solve this. Currently, accounts offer 4 to 5% interest rates without withdrawal penalties. Options like SoFi, Ally, and Marcus by Goldman Sachs provide decent rates with FDIC insurance protection. Accelerating your savings. Most believe building substantial stability funds takes years. With smart tactics, it doesn't. When building my savings, I use 3 stacked tactics that dramatically accelerated accumulation. Tactic 1. The paycheck sweep. Immediately upon income arrival, transfer 15% into your emergency fund. Automate this via direct debit or scheduled transfer for hands-off execution, just like your 25% growth allocation. Tactic 2. The replacement promise. If you tap your stability fund, immediately replenish it. Let's say you need $250 for car repairs. Fine, that's the fund's purpose. But next paycheck, restore that tax. $150, like it never left. Tactic 3. The save by spending method. Use roundup applications that round every purchase to the nearest dollar, depositing the difference into savings. Spending $3.60 gets rounded to $4, saving 40 cents. Sounds minimal, but accumulates quickly and imperceptibly. Alternatively, if using cashback credit cards and paying fully monthly, redirect those rewards straight to your stability fund. Once your stability fund is fully funded, you have 2 options: roll that money into growth or shift it into the final 10% we'll discuss shortly. The third portion, your essential foundation. 50% of your income should cover essentials. This is the 50% that sustains you, not your ego. Surprisingly, over 60% of Americans earning above $100,000 annually still live paycheck to paycheck, too busy appearing rich instead of becoming rich. This proves you can earn excellent salaries and still feel broke monthly because it's not about earnings, it's about waste. Let me illustrate. At 20, I had a friend who appeared to have everything: designer clothing, expensive watches, constant spending. I was the opposite. Basic wardrobe, cheap watch, just necessities. Sure, my fashion sense needed work, but I was young. Here's what people didn't see. He had $43.20 with overdue credit card payments. I had over $1,000 quietly sitting in investments, plus a decent stability fund. I'd learned from my car loan disaster and worked extremely hard rebuilding my finances, requiring eliminating unnecessary spending. Though this might not seem substantial, remember money's value was much higher then. That $1,000 represented a start. That's what most miss. Wealth isn't what you see, it's what you don't see. Defining true essentials. Many won't appreciate this, but what many consider essentials nowadays are actually luxuries. True essentials keep you alive and functioning. Housing, groceries, utilities, transportation, insurance, and clothing. Not latest designer drops, just absolute necessities. What doesn't count? Takeout, forgotten Amazon subscriptions, gyms you haven't visited since January, stacked streaming services you keep meaning to cancel. The list continues. If you're using a gym, that's different, but so many subscribe to unused services. One of the easiest ways to free money is reviewing bank statements and canceling anything unused. If it's not helping you live, work, or stay healthy, it probably doesn't belong in your 50%. Why cap at 50%? Because average people already spend 60 to 70% on perceived essentials. Locking lifestyle at 50% forces elimination of non-essentials. It also shifts your mindset from wanting to spend more of what you earn to wanting to earn more and increase income, which you should always pursue. Shrinking key categories. People often discuss cutting small expenses like coffee. Honestly, I've said this myself, but for biggest impact, focus on two key categories first. Housing represents most people's largest expense, but it doesn't need to grow with income. Always renegotiate rent when leases expire. Most landlords prefer keeping tenants over the hassle of listing, cleaning, and showing properties again. Even small reductions or freezes save thousands. Want to go further? Consider house hacking, renting a spare room, splitting places with roommates, or temporarily moving with parents while building your buffer. If you can limit housing to half your essentials fund, you're in good position. Now, transportation. Car payments are massive wealth killers. People lease brand new cars for monthly status symbols and pay for years on depreciating liabilities. I always recommend buying used, reliable vehicles that have absorbed majority depreciation, at least until your income supports nicer cars. And I don't mean just barely affordable. It should be under half your essentials fund. In walkable or urban areas, consider eliminating cars entirely, freeing hundreds monthly. It's not just car payments, also insurance, maintenance, and parking. Combined, this creates significant savings. Using systems, not willpower. When you're tired, stressed, or bored, willpower evaporates. That's why the top 1% don't rely on it. Instead, they build systems making right choices automatically. When building my wealth, I had a simple system keeping me on track. Every time I was tempted to buy something and wasn't sure if it was essential, I ran it through key questions. These questions stopped unnecessary purchases and helped maintain focus on bigger goals. First, is this an impulse purchase? If no, buy it. It's likely something you've contemplated, and if it fits essential categories discussed earlier, it's straightforward. If yes, use the 7-day rule. The trick is pausing 7 days before buying anything. After 7 days, ask yourself again if you still want it. Most times the answer is no. Waiting 7 days is funny. You often forget entirely as excitement fades, and it wasn't that important initially. But if after 7 days you still want it, next question. Are you buying for brand or value? If brand, don't buy it. You're likely drawn by great marketing. If it's essential, there's an unbranded alternative doing the job equally well, if not better. This is where most people mess up. Wealthy people don't throw money at brands for marketing. They contemplate value. What does value mean? If you buy $60 boots and wear them 100 times, that's 60 cents per wear. Good value. But $200 designer trainers worn twice cost $100 per wear. Going too cheap isn't smart either. A $5 shirt falling apart in the wash is still wasted money. Don't chase brands, chase quality. If you answered value, final question, will this improve your life? If yes, a conscious, intentional purchase, proceed. If no, it's probably about impressing someone, killing boredom, or chasing dopamine. Not worth your money. After going through this process several times, you'll decide if something's worth buying without consciously thinking about questions. They just train your mind correctly. Remember, it's not about being tight, it's about being intentional. The final 10th, your reward system. The last 10% of your income goes toward rewards. This is the 10% keeping you sane. Let's be honest, money isn't just about growth, stability, and essentials. You're allowed to enjoy it. Most people skip this entirely and wonder why saving feels pointless. As I've aged, I've realized little things refuel you and remind you why you're doing all this boring money discipline stuff. This is backed by facts. 92% of people overspend after intensive saving sprints because saving without joy feels like punishment quickly. That's exactly why this 10% exists. Not as an excuse, but as strategy. Like a cheat meal, it makes your whole financial diet comfortable and, most importantly, sustainable. But to maximize impact, you must be strategic with usage. Making it guilt-free. To make something guilt-free, you must see value in it. Truth is, you can spend your 10% on whatever you like. However, some categories are more valuable than others, making them more guilt-free. First category, vacations. Trips away or weekend getaways. Valuable because you're buying lasting memories. Also great for de-stressing. When building businesses in younger years, I completely ignored vacation importance, which led to severe illness. Doctors diagnosed stress-induced shingles. They recommended vacation, so I took my first ski trip. I had a fantastic time. Since then, annual vacations became priority. Instead of seeing it as wasted time or money, I now see it as health investment because it keeps me sharp and prevents burnout. Next is hobbies. Painting, gaming, photography, flying model aircraft. The list continues. Valuable because it maintains passion. You don't always do what you love for work, so doing it in spare time keeps spirits up so you can work harder longer. Next is nights out. Dinner, concerts, experiences. Another thing I ignored early on, which was a big mistake as I lost most friends. Having a strong social network is so important, especially nowadays. Finally, gifts, not for yourself, but loved ones. Another thing I overlooked. You can see most of what I teach comes from learning from mistakes. When focused on chasing goals, building businesses, and growing investments, I often forgot birthdays and special occasions. So locked on the future that I overlooked what mattered in the present. Truth is, I never really cared about receiving gifts. There's not much I wanted. But it wasn't until I married my wife and we started exchanging anniversary gifts that I finally understood. Gifts aren't about items. They're about thought, connection, and relationships they strengthen. Preloading the fund. I recommend opening a separate bank account called your Joy Jar. Doesn't have to be with a new bank. You can have multiple current accounts with the same bank appearing on your mobile banking app, making things very simple. Then set up automatic transfer of 10% of whatever you make deposited into this account every single month. If you make $2,000, send $200. If you make $10,000, send $1,000. Amount doesn't matter. The percentage keeps it sustainable. Just ensure you don't cheat. You can't top the account from growth, stability, or essentials when it gets low. If you hit zero, wait until next month. When you know this fund is limited, you maximize it in the best possible way. This is exactly how you protect goals without feeling like you're missing out every time friends suggest dinner or you pass something you love in a shop. Prioritizing experiences. If you don't have a particularly large joy jar at the moment, prioritize experiences above everything else. People always tell me in comments, "What are you saving for? You're gonna die with all your money." I get it. From outside, it might look like I'm depriving myself, but I'm really not. I just spend differently than most people. I don't need a garage full of cars or shelves of designer gear. That stuff might look rich, but doesn't feel rich to me. My 10% goes on things I'll actually remember: ski trips with my wife, great days at Universal Studios with my son, meeting supporters in New York, weekend golfing with friends. Your path forward. There you have it, the complete 25-15-50-10 framework. This isn't theory. This is the exact system that transformed my financial life and can do the same for you. If this resonated with you and you're ready to take control of your financial future, make sure to subscribe. We're building a community of people who refuse to accept financial mediocrity, who understand that wealth isn't about what you earn, it's about what you keep, grow, and protect. Hit that subscribe button because your future self will thank you for the decision you make today. I'll see you in the next one.